Right, this is going to be another episode of Richie's Thoughts. I believe this is episode 15? Yeah, it's episode 15. Holy shit. I did not think, well, I mean, I always thought I would do like 15 episodes or more of this series, but, and it probably should have been more than 15, considering last year, but I've already, admitted to you guys a lot, before that last year just wasn't really my year for content creation, and I just needed to do better. Which, by the way, I've talked about that before. If you guys want to go ahead and check out the Twitter post I made, in which I talked about, sort of a reflections thing, just kind of reflecting on last year and how, it kind of just fell off from the consistency, blech, and the goals I have for myself as a content creator. If you want to check that out, it will be on my Twitter, which is Twitter R3097. Sorry, I just had to make sure everything was all good here. But yeah, anyways, so like I said, this is going to be a bit of a long episode. So let me go ahead and give you guys an overview of what we'll be talking about here today on the show. First of all, as you guys might have seen from the preview video, that was posted on my Facebook, that was posted on my Twitter, I will be talking about Indeed, the Chargers pursuing Jim Harbaugh saga. There's a lot of shit to be talking about with that, so I will be giving my thoughts on that. I will also be talking about the news about Pokemon Horizons getting English dub getting delayed on Netflix, which I don't really like that at all, and I think it just shows further incompetence of TPCi. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm gonna give my thoughts about League of Legends, a little bit about some of the map changes that they have done, and how I think it could be either good or bad for the game. It really depends. And just some other stuff along the way too. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the first topic at hand, which is which I'll leave the Charger stuff a little later on, because that will be a bigger fish to fry. So we're gonna go ahead and just basically get the other two stuff over with, because I know that's what most of the audience usually tends to prefer. So let's go ahead and start off with the Pokemon Horizons stuff. Okay, so for those of you guys that don't know, recently it was announced on the Pokemon official Twitter account that basically the English dub for Pokemon, which now, for those that don't know or have been living under a rock, is now premiering on Netflix. That is basically where the English dub pretty much premieres, as opposed to the usual television premiere that you would kind of expect to see. But because of everything heading mostly as a streaming thing, it has head towards that way. I mean, still it premieres on TV, but I think it mainly just goes on Netflix and stuff. It was announced on January 12th, 2024 at 9:01 a.m. Pacific my time, and it says here, and I quote, "Hello trainers, Pokemon Horizons the series will now premiere on March 7th on Netflix, just a short time later than previously announced. We know fans around the world are looking forward to local debuts of the highly anticipated new animated Pokemon series, and it's almost here. Get ready for an adventure with Liko, Spirito, and friends in the world of Pokemon." So that was the official tweet announcement of the fact that Pokemon Horizons series premiere on Netflix is got delayed. First of all, I think this is terrible, because number one, and now I'm only speculating because I don't know what could be the actual reason as to why, they're delaying this. But to me, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Number one, a lot of the episodes are probably just now going to get released on BBC, which is the British channel, I believe. So let me make sure I have the term right. Yeah, so British Broadcasting Corporation. So yeah, basically what I just said. A lot of the episodes that people end up watching for the English dub anyways, before it actually touches America, gets released for BBC anyways. I would know, because some of the Journeys episodes that I've had the unfortunate pleasure of watching ended up having the BBC logo on it. So that meant that a lot of people were just waiting for that to come out so they could just, so that way they could just literally watch the episode and be in the know. If by the time the shit comes out in America, it's like, well, damn, I've already seen the episode. It's not. This is not really news to me. This is not really much of a surprise. So again, I don't know what the actual thing happened as far as why it actually got delayed. We had no idea if it has anything to do with voice acting. We have no idea what it, if it has to do anything with music. We don't know if it has to do anything with production. Like, we don't know. But that being said, however, this still doesn't make it any better for the trajectory of the English dub, because the English dub has always gone through some shit. Whenever they make like certain changes that don't make sense, or they do some stuff that fans can literally look at and just be like, I can do better. Because let's think about this historically. They're like the only primetime anime, and yes, primetime anime. They're like the only primetime anime, as far as I'm aware, that doesn't even have an official sub release, which is still an atrocity to this day. That Pokemon, this big of a franchise, does not have an official sub release. And I don't want to hear that bullshit about like, oh, well, it's just only a strictly kids anime. It doesn't matter. There's been other kid animes that had official sub releases that came from Japan into America. Like, there's proof of that almost all over the place. So there's that. You have a very strong international audience. So I don't see how. I basically can't see the reason why you wouldn't be able to do no sub release. Like, that just doesn't make sense at all. And again, I've already brought it up before, but people are not going to wait for the Netflix release at this point. They're just going to wait until the episodes hit on the BBC channel, which, as of this recording, there has been nothing to report as far as like delays or anything like that, or no issues. So I don't know. I don't know what they're doing here. Unless there's like some sort of hidden issue that literally gives a legitimate, reason for these episodes to be delayed. I think having Pokemon Horizons English dub here in America being delayed pretty much puts a lot of handicap into the English dub really being like the go-to dub when it comes to English viewers to go watch the show. I mean, it already was to begin with, when most of your audience is literally just gonna wait to watch these fucking episodes illegally for the Japanese streaming sites, or even on Twitch, because there's a guy on Twitch that literally streams like the episodes, and then he deletes the VOD, because obviously if you keep the VOD of an illegal stream of a Japanese anime that doesn't have like an official release, then obviously Twitch is gonna be like, yeah, we can't allow that. So yeah, to me, it never makes sense with TPCi's English dub. They always replace the original music to save money. Again, there's no sub release. It's a fucking year late for an anime that literally started, and it's on fucking Netflix. Yes, Netflix, the same fucking platform that we've been hearing pretty much within the last few years or so, getting fucking mean to death when it comes to how they're handling the password shit, when it comes to them raising their prices, while also at the same time taking away some of the most quality shows to even that make it to where paying top dollar for Netflix doesn't make sense. It's like if you subscribe to Netflix for like 5 really good shows, and then they take away like fucking 4 of them. It's like, what are you paying for? Are you paying for like something that you're never gonna watch? And I understand you're not gonna be able to watch every show on Netflix, but the point is that you subscribe to a streaming service to watch quality, and if there isn't any quality on the platform, and the platform literally voluntarily takes away those quality contents or content shows, then what are we doing? Like, what are we wasting our money for? So I've always had my gripe with the English dub, and I've always had for years, with the way that they handled it as far as release schedule. And I thought they were getting better with Journeys. Like, I really did thought they did. I mean, granted, it wasn't like on par with Japan in terms of release times and shit, but I think I've come to accept that it's just probably not going to happen. But I want to at least see that the gap was closing. And Journeys did really show that to a certain degree, that they were closing the gap almost pretty closely. Almost to the point where they literally announced the Horizons dub at the same time that it was also announced in Japan. And that gave a lot of people, including myself, a false assumption that maybe TPCi was looking at the way people reacted to that announcement at the same time, with the but also with the other announcements of the 2 Ash specials, the one, the first one with the 11 episode series, and then the other one, the Blue Sky one. How does TPCi not see the reaction, or how does TPCi, I should say, how does TPCi see the reaction to that announcement, and see how people were super excited for that stuff to be announced at the same time as the Japanese stuff, or the Japanese version of it all? How did they not look at that and then think to themselves, wow, maybe we should spend money a little bit to, have an official English sub release that goes alongside with the Japanese one, or if not at the same time, very close to it. It's like they haven't learned their lesson. It's like they have not learned their lesson. And I'm so sick and tired of the incompetence of this fucking company in terms of anime. Like, I guarantee you, if somebody else that can actually handle the popularity and the demand and everything that Pokemon comes with, and they can actually put us an actual, official English sub release, I guarantee you that Pokemon will be not only much more better received in America in terms of reception, which granted, it's not really anything negative. I'm not saying Pokemon is like shit or anything, but I do honestly believe that if you have an official sub release here in America, and you give your audience the option of either watching it in another language and also being able to watch it in their own language without having to go up, to illegal streaming sites and shit, and being able to bring more traffic to, either the Pokemon website in case you want to do lock, in case you do want to lock like the official English sub release there, or you want to partner up with another website and give people an opportunity to maybe pay a small fee, maybe like $4 a month, to go watch fucking Pokemon episodes, with the official English, English subs. Like, I'm literally spelling out a groundwork for these motherfuckers to take care of, to not only make money, but also capitalize on the success. But the people are there. The people are there. People have been begging for years for an English sub release. They've been begging. They have been begging. And this incompetent company just decides, oh, we're not going to do that. We're just going to put it on Netflix. We're going to put it on a platform that raises prices to an obnoxious amount that us, over at the company know it's not good, but we do it anyways to gain more profit. We're going to make it harder for you to really, share your account with others, which I imagine that's what a lot of Pokemon viewers that watch it on Netflix do anyway. So it's like, in a way, the fact that they're still partnering with these guys with that in mind, and even if so, the fact that they, and I hate stressing it, but I have to just to make the point, the fact that they still don't have an official sub release for the fucking English-speaking audience is an atrocity. How is it that lower scale animes and other animes of Pokemon's kind that has little less popularity and definitely less of an international reach, and I can tell you that much, how is it that these other animes can get their shit together when it comes to official English, sub release, when it comes to making sure the episode release times may not necessarily be at the same time as Japanese, but they're at least closer enough? How is it that those other animes can get their shit together when it comes to that, but not fucking Pokemon? I'll tell you why. It's because TPCi are a bunch of cheap motherfuckers that can't literally be bothered to spend more than a fucking dime to get shit done. And they're a billion-dollar company. They are still the most popular media franchise in the world. You might be thinking, oh, well, how's it any bigger than Mario? How's it any bigger than, Star Wars, that sort of thing. So here, hold on. Let me look this up real quick, just to make sure let me make sure I got this right. Let me see. All right, when was this made? I'm trying to find out, because I have the inventory in front of me. I will say like how much it is, but I'm trying to find out when this was made, but I can't really find that anywhere. Okay, whatever. So this is the only this is like the only image that's really come out as far as I've seen that shows basically, you know, the amount and stuff. I don't have it on screen, unfortunately, and my thing's being a little bit weird, but I basically got it from titlemax.com. I will put the link in the description down below in case I do remember, but if not, I'll probably put it on Twitter or something. But anyways, let's get to the point. Now again, I don't know if this is like full reflective of the current numbers at state. So I don't know if this keeps in mind of, you know, the newer Pokemon games, the trading cards, that sort of thing. But I think this should be, even with that in mind, this should still be pretty accurate as far as this should be pretty accurate as far as like the number price is concerned. And even if it doesn't take in mind the current generation, Pokemon still has made a shit ton of money. So I would not be surprised if the whole dollar amount doesn't change, especially when we're talking about billions of dollars. Maybe it'll be like less millions or something. But anyways, let's talk about this. Okay, so let me list to you guys the top 5 franchises that I literally see on the list, because it says here the 25 highest grossing media franchises of all time. Source. Okay, so it's coming from Wikipedia, whatever. Okay, so we have Pokemon at number 1. We have Hello Kitty at number 2. We have Winnie the Pooh at number 3. Mickey Mouse at number 4. And Star Wars at number 5. So let's talk about Pokemon, because this is what we're here to talk about. Pokemon, as according to this image, and as long as I have this correct, Pokemon has literally made over $60 billion. $60 billion based on the color key, because it has a color key of how much Pokemon or each, you know, franchise has made in terms of either merchandise, box office, comics and manga, whole entertainment, that sort of shit. But Pokemon has made over $60 billion alone for merchandise. And that and by that, guys, I'm talking about like shirts, shorts, plushies, toys, that sort of shit. And then we get into video games. And from the $60 billion starting point, the video games have added on basically... oh, wait, the numbers are sideways. Oh, so you can actually look at it. Okay, so the video games have made over $61 billion. But still 60 billion. I was about to say million. But yeah, basically, it's still $60 billion that they've made. Even if I was off of like a one number or whatever. But yeah, the video games. The video games, which I'm surprised this isn't much more than it should be, but whatever. I guess this only keeps in mind of the more recent sales throughout the last several years, and not all of the above. But honestly, I could be wrong. But anyways, whether or not it keeps in mind of all the sales or not, the video games of Pokemon have sold $17.14 billion. So again, that's another factor of money that's being made. And then the next one, which is the trading cards. Now this one I'm surprised isn't as much. I was expecting this to be like maybe 15 billion or 20 billion. But no, this is actually $10.25 billion that the trading card game has made. And then all the other ones, like for example, comics and manga, that has made $1.46 billion. And then the light green, which is the box office, that has made an overall $1.31 billion. And that has come from... I don't know if this keeps in mind the Japanese releases. I assume not, or maybe it keeps in mind with the English, or maybe it does. But basically, the movies have made about that much overall. But again, I don't know specifically if it keeps in mind the the English releases that have come out in theaters, or just Japanese. I have no idea. So we're gonna leave that research for another day. And then the last one, which is the dark green, which is Home Entertainment, that is $860 million. So overall, we have about, with all those numbers in mind, we have exactly about $92.121 billion. $92.121 billion. You mean to fucking tell me out of that much money that this company has made, and that doesn't even, and yes, I know, you gotta pay the people in the company and all the other stuff, that still doesn't matter. Pokemon would still have a shit ton of money left over in their fucking pockets to still come up with a competent release of their English dub to their fucking audience. Because if that were the case, why are we cheap on music? Why are we not doing that official English sub release that literally makes sense for your fucking audience? Why are we not doing the things that lower tier animes that don't make that much money and don't get that much exposure compared to Pokemon? How is it that those ones can get their shit together and have those things, but not Pokemon? Is Pokemon just not allowed to have it? Is Pokemon not allowed to have it? TPCi is just incompetent. TPCi is just incompetent. Like, I sincerely do not understand to this day how they think this is I just don't I just don't know. I just don't know. And it's not like Pokemon's declining in money, because let's think about this. Licensed merchandise. Until 2020, or I mean until years ago, it was fucking in 2006 it was 1.3 billion dollars, so it wasn't really that much. And then from there it keeps going up. It keeps going up, because in 2014 it was $2 billion. In 2016 it was 3.3 billion. In 2018 it was 2.98. And then it shot up basically from there, from 2.98 billion to 4.2. And that was the year Sword and Shield came out. The same one that everybody and their mom bitched about the fucking tree graphics. Oh, wow. Well, that's the same year where the profits went up. Where how that works. 2020, the COVID pandemic. They went from $4.2 billion in 2019, and they went up to 5.1 billion in fucking 2020. And then from there, in 2021, when things were starting to sort of normalize again, it went from $5.1 billion for licensed merchandise, of course. It went from $5.1 billion in 2020 all the way fucking up to 8.5. And then, obviously, from 2021 into 2022, it went from 8.5 to fucking 11.6. It's fucking ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. Also, I actually am looking at it right now. It actually does keep in mind of the let me take a look here. It actually does keep in mind the English releases, because I'm looking here at the number the /numbers.com, and it has like the movies and stuff. It has Detective Pikachu. Wait, why does it say Detective Pikachu 2? That's not even a thing yet at all. Like, is that even a thing? Hold on. Oh no, that's just there for whatever reason. But it's not even an official project. Anyways, so yeah, it keeps in mind the first movie. It keeps in mind 2000. It keeps in mind the third movie, and all these other ones. I think it just, let me see. I'm not sure these are just the hold on, let me take a look here. Okay, I'll look further into this. But yeah, no, just to really go off of, just to really keep going. The fact of the matter is, right? The fact of the matter is, the franchise Pokemon should do better. There's no excuse for them to not have like the things that are actually needed. That are needed for a successful release. Oh yeah, okay. So it does keep in mind the the feeder releases for America, because I took a look at the numbers. So yeah, this literally actually does Oh, so it does. Okay, cool. Okay, so that actually makes my point even more wider. You have in mind the America numbers, and you also have in mind the international numbers, which is basically Japan. Just the fact that they can't get it together, and just with that money, along with all the money maker factors, they just they just can't get it together. They just can't get it together. Like I legitimately do not get it. And just and to be honest with you guys, I don't think it's because they're lazy, or maybe it is because of laziness. I don't know, but I don't think they're stupid. They do know for a fact this is what we all want from the veteran side of things, the newbie side of things, and people that are in the middle, whatever the name may be. A lot of those people want what I'm saying we need: sub release, better music. The voice acting of women has gotten better. I will give them that. But those are the bare minimum steps that they have to take if they really want to get their shit seriously. And I guarantee you guys, I fucking guarantee you, if they do the things I say that they need to do, watch me. I shouldn't say just I mean, a lot of people have been saying it. But if they do those things, English sub release, better music, giving us the option to watch English dub for America, or if we really want for the veterans, charges like $4 or something more. Well, probably nothing more. I hope, just maybe like $4.99 or even fucking $8. And I bet you that's better money to spend than fucking spending on fucking Twitter or whatever it's called nowadays. You do like a very small price to pay for an English sub release on the Pokemon website or somewhere else. Like Pokemon can partner on with Crunchyroll, and they can do that number, like between $4 to $8 to go watch an official sub release in case they still want to make money off of it. I guarantee you do that shit, things will get better for that anime. I guarantee it. In terms of production and in terms of decision making, I guarantee it. I will literally sign a fucking check for $100 and give it to the next person that doesn't think that won't change anything. I guarantee it. I guarantee it, because you're going to widen your audience. You're going to capture more of it. You're going to get new people into this damn franchise. If you step up your exposure, if you step up with the consistency opening, you do those things are going to get better. I guarantee it. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it as far as the Pokemon stuff is concerned. I mean, there's not very much more else I can say, because I mean, I think at this point it's kind of turned into a rant, because I mean, this was intended to be a rant anyways, because I really have not really kept up too much with Horizons. I mean, I do know most of the stuff that's happened. Like I can say to you that based on what I've seen from screenshots, videos, and shit from Twitter about it, I think the anime in terms of the actual show and not the production heads, I think it is a good anime to watch. I do think it's heading to the right direction. I'm more so curious about how they're going to handle the story, because I think that's the biggest thing that people can really say. It's that how are they going to handle the story without Ash, the guy that's been there for like 25 years or so. How are they going to handle that? How are they going to handle the character moving forward? Well, I mean, when I say character, I'm referring to the main character of either Liko or Roy, one of those guys, or even both. But speaking of which, I actually just reminded myself. Okay, so this is the very last thing I'm talking about for Pokemon, and then we'll move on to other stuff. I've noticed a tweet earlier this week, or last week, I should say, because technically it's Monday, so I shouldn't say earlier the week because that would be disingenuous. I noticed a tweet earlier, though, that there is a Horizons episode that came out. I don't know if it was the last one or the one that came before it, but basically it was an episode, right? And you know how when a Pokemon, and its trainer shows some positivity to each other, and they have their own handshake, hand clap, giving each other a slap, hand slap gesture, just for fun, just to show how close they are. There is a moment that Freed, I hope I said the name right, freed and his Pikachu, aka Captain Pikachu, which, by the way, I think that's very fucking clever. I think that's pretty clever. I will give the writers that for coming up with that, even though it's just literally Pikachu in the captain's hat. But the way they're doing it in terms of the personality and what it's shown so far, I think it's been good. I've liked what they've shown. But anyways, let's keep going. So there is a moment where Freed and Captain Pikachu gave themselves a handshake in the air, like clapping each other's or giving each other a nice clap, for hand clap to each other, like just showing the bond that they have. And I guess some people look at that and they were just like, oh, because it looks very similar to that one Journeys episode where Ash and Pikachu essentially did the same exact thing. Although if you really look at it, it's not like 110% the same. It just looks very similar. But there's a difference between very similar and, it being 110% match. Like there's a literal difference in terms of that definition and in terms of how, people can, almost perceive it. But there's not very much more you can perceive differently because it's literally different characters doing it. And it's not like I said before, it's not like it's the same exact thing, guys. Like it's really not. It just looks similar, but obviously it has its difference as to how it's animated, how the handshake or hand clap actually ends up looking, or a high five, I should say. I don't know if I keep forgetting that word. But the high five is not even the same exact thing, almost. Obviously, because again, different angle, different animation, different setting, different characters. There's literal differences. I mean, the idea of it is the same, yes. The idea of of a trainer with its Pikachu doing that, yes, those are really the two things that you can say that are just about the same. But anyways, that's not the point. The point is, there are some people on that tweet, or people that quote tweeted it, that actually got super offended at the writers for even doing that. And I'm like thinking, aren't you guys the same people that have been begging to see a little bit of ass representation or some sort of mention here and there in Horizons, even though literally it does not make any sense to do that? Aren't you the same people that have been begging for that? So when we finally do get one, a indirect, well, maybe not so an indirect reference because it's not really mentioning or trying to mention Ash one way or another. It's just literally a fucking a high five or so. Or, I guess it could be considered an indirect reference because it's not like it's directly mentioning him. This is more so like a, hey, you know this from somewhere type of deal. But anyways, when we continue. So why is it that we finally get the thing, almost the thing that you wanted, and you still find a way to complain about it? To the point where you're even offended that they've even done it. First of all, motherfucker, this is their anime. They can do whatever the fuck they want. They can do whatever the fuck they want. Even they might even do some of the things that you and I don't even like, but they have the ability to do that. They have the ability to do that. I don't know. Looking at some of the reactions for that tweet had just been, and I don't think I need to be specific on who I'm talking about. If you know, you know. But some of those reactions, and I'm not talking shit about the original poster. I want to make that very clear. I'm not talking any sort of negativity towards the original person, and I do not encourage harassment in any way, shape, or form because I think that's unacceptable, and I do not condone that behavior. I am only saying that I think some of the reactions that have replied to that tweet, that I'm saying is way out of line. Not way out of line, like super offended, I should say. It's more so unnecessary reactions. Like they say too much. Like there was somebody that there was somebody on there, I'm not going to say names. There was somebody on there that got super offended to the point where they even threatened to stop watching the anime just because of that fucking scene alone. It is sick. It is sick of how people wanted indirect representation or references of the fucking character Ash in the anime, even though, like I said, they shouldn't do that because I think Horizons should be able to stand on its own pair of legs without having to, do any of that shit just to cater towards like a certain group of people. Just being, they don't need to do it. It just needs to stand on its own pair of legs without relying on the character. So why is it that we do give like a sort of an indirect reference, but not really, that people have been begging for, and we're still complaining? We're still complaining about that. Like, really? Really. And I know I just mentioned that part where, why are they trying to cater towards like a certain group of people? And I know it's very ironic to me to say for me to say that when I was just talking about like the whole English sub thing and all that stuff. But here's the difference. The difference is that you're not catering. Instead, what you're doing is you're doing your audience a favor. You're doing the thing that a lot of us want them to do. Like a lot of the veterans want them to do it. Hell, even some of the newer people that are under the Pokemon tweet, there are some people that have not even watched the anime for fucking years, or they're not considered veterans or whatever. There is even some people that want it themselves. So it's not a case of catering. It's more so of doing what's right for your audience. So before anybody comes in my comments or my tweet or talks to me on Discord or whatever and says, "Oh well, Richie's a hypocrite," it's like, first of all, no, I'm not. What I just mentioned there was not a case of hypocrisy, not at all. Because the difference is that I'm stating of what they should do for their audience, all of their audience. This right here, as far as the fucking the thing with the high five moment, that in itself is pure hypocrisy. Because you can't want an indirect reference or a direct reference to a character that you've been wanting to see again, or we've been missing so much, and then be the same ones getting mad about it when they end up doing it, but just because it's not done with the character that you want that to be with. Like, oh, I'm sorry, is the last 25 years not fucking enough for you guys? For 8 fucking regions, a shit ton of anime episodes, shit ton of movies. Was that not enough for you guys? Really? Was that really not enough? We're just gonna sit here and fucking complain about like one fucking moment, one scene in a Horizons episode about a fucking high five just because it was done with 2 fucking characters, or 1 character technically, because Pikachu's still Pikachu, but just somebody else's. Are we really gonna complain about that? Just because it wasn't Ash? Get a gripe, guys. Come on, you guys gotta do better than that. Unbelievable. But yeah, I that's pretty much it for the Pokemon topic. I thought there was like really nothing left, but then I just remembered the whole Ash pretty much I actually had in my notes. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and move on from the topic. If I end up remembering something down this episode where maybe I might want to contribute to the topic again, then I probably will. But yeah, I'm just I don't think there's very much more I can say. Overall, just to summarize it, I mean, English sub should happen. This is pure incompetence by TPCi for this English dub delay, because now you're essentially just telling them, hey, go watch your English dub from the BBC, the channel that's not even in our fucking region, or maybe it is, but just not a whole lot of content, because a lot more of it could be more for the British audience than it would be for us. So yeah, that's it. Okay, we're gonna talk about League of Legends. This is probably the first time I've ever talked about it here on the podcast. Or maybe there has been other times where I've talked about it, but not to this extent where I might actually discuss like actual gameplay shit or items or whatever. So sorry, I just need a good drink after all that ranting. Oh god. Okay. So this one's probably not gonna be a whole lot of time spent on it because I don't have like not much notes in front of me or notes on my notepad here that talk about League of Legends, because here's what I literally wrote for this segment. I literally just wrote, give my thoughts about gameplay and what my thoughts are on the balance of the game. Okay, so for those that don't know, which is probably a lot of you, because to be fair, I don't expect a whole lot of people that actually been watching my stuff to really play League of Legends on the ground levels that I've had. Not to say that you couldn't or can't, but I'm like maybe one of the few in within my own audience that maybe has played it a lot more to understand like a lot of the game's balance and direction and decision making. So, but for those that don't know, League of Legends for the new season that just came out a few days ago has released an updated version to their map, and basically a lot of changes have happened. There's been new terrain in the map. There's been new paths. Almost sort of new paths, but like different ways of getting different ways of getting into stuff. Let's just put it that way. So new terrain, different paths, new buffs in a way, or new activations, different barren pit areas, because there's gonna be like free random ones that you get depending on what map you spawn with. There's basically new items, like some items here and there. They removed the mythic system, which basically, for those that don't know, the mythic system was just basically certain items are classified under mythic, which meant that if you built it, if you built one mythic item, you cannot build other mythics along with it, and that really didn't sit well with a lot of people, because mythics essentially just kind of limited your creativity with your champion build. So, like, for example, if you're somebody like Ash, which is a frost archer, for those that don't know, somebody that shoots arrows, Ash is going to want to build Affinity Edge. But what if Ash also wants to build Trinity Force, which is the recent thing that people have been doing? Well, with the mythic system, you couldn't fucking do that. You had to literally decide between two of those items and look at the state of the game of which that you're in, and then think to yourself, okay, which item do I think is best? Do I want an item that amplifies my crit as something that relies on crit with my passive and with every into my kit overall? Or do I want an item that's better for dueling, and for somebody like me that excels at dueling in terms of kiting, and something that gives me more attack speed, and damage is sort of okay, but it's made up for by movement speed, attack speed, and all the other above that I just mentioned. The mythic system wasn't exactly horrible, but it definitely did stifle a lot of creativity in the builds. And I think League of Legends is at its peak when there's creativity involved. I mean, what do you think? Why do you think sometimes you'll see people randomly mention on Reddit that, oh, they think this build can work? Let's say, and I'm just throwing this out there, I'm not saying it's good, bad, or anything. I'm just, throwing shit out on my ass. Let's say Rumble, right? Which basically, for those that don't know, Rumble is a Yordle creature, which is basically a furry little guy. He's inside this, he's in fucking English. He's inside this nice machine that spits out a flamethrower. Basically, something that just spits fire or whatever, like a machine that spits fire. What if there's a build, let's just say, and I'm not saying it's good or bad, and I'm not advocating for this when I say this. What if there's a build where you could go AD Rumble? And the reason why this will work is because you look inside the champion's kit, you look inside the champion's abilities, and you look to yourself, okay, this ability can do, let's say, for example, 20 AD or something, out of, every free passive shot or whatever. Or if you do that with your W or your E or whatever, you can get like an extra set of AD, or that sort of thing. Like, people look into the creativeness of the champion. They look at how their kit is, and they look at their build, they look at the abilities, they look at those three things, and that's where the creativeness of their builds, come into play. I mean, a lot of the prominent builds in League of Legends that we've seen throughout the years don't just come from the fact that, it's the most standard thing that you have to do. I mean, some of them are, yes, but a lot of those builds that pro players have played with, and some of the solo queue players, or a lot of solo queue players, I should say, a lot of those builds have come from the direct result of creativiness. Creativeness when it comes to people from the internet figuring this shit out, pro players figuring this shit out, analysts figuring this shit out, that sort of thing. That sort of thing. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about right there. And the mythic system essentially stifled a lot of that. People that may actually play the game may disagree with that assessment, but I think a lot of people do actually agree with that same stance. I think it did definitely, like I said, stifled a lot of creativeness into the build. Into building your champion. Like, I still believe that to this day, and I'm glad they got rid of the mythic system, because, like I said, I think had they continued that and they still promoted like a lot of creativeness in terms of the map and in terms of matchups, then that's limited creativity. Because think about it this way: if you have a creative build, you can actually approach certain matchups differently. Like, for example, and I'm just going to throw this out there again. Let's say we're talking about Lucian versus Ashe, right? Normally, Ashe wins that matchup. But what if there's a build that Lucian can do without the Mythic system that he can build that directly helps him out in the matchup and makes it better for him? Well, in the Mythic system, that kind of is stifled a bit because you only are limited to just one of those Mythics. If let's say you needed the other one just to be able to compete in the matchup, but you can't because you've already made the decision on the first Mythic item that's core for your champion. So again, I know I'm a broken record, but the fact that they removed the Mythic system is good for the game. It's good for the game. And I never understood why in the first place they decided, oh, we should just put this in the game. That will definitely help out a lot. No, it didn't, guys. No, it fucking didn't. It definitely did not. I can tell you that much. It definitely did not. So yeah, I don't know. But I will say, based on the newer, some of the newer items are cool. Actually, I think a lot of them are actually more so made for like assassins and stuff. Like, for example, if you're somebody that plays with Blanc and stuff, Luden's Compost, fucking Storm Surge, that shit was literally made for champions like LeBlanc that go in there and burst you down, or even Zoe for that matter, or yeah, like I said, or literally anybody that's a magic user that does burst damage. Those items were made for those champions in mind. They were made for those champions. Literally made for those champions. And again, I'm glad that they removed the system. I'm really glad they did. I mean, there are some people that kind of somewhat enjoyed it based on this and that, but overall, I never really liked it, and I was waiting for the day. I was waiting for the day that they would, come out and say, "Listen, we're going to remove the Mythic system. We realized that this is not what most people really liked. We just wanted to try something new, try something different, and see how that impacted our game. But clearly, based on our audience response, we're going to revert back on the change." Which is essentially what they said, in a way. They pretty much just said, yeah, we realized not much people really liked it, so we're just going ahead and revert it back and just go back to, people just picking whatever without being limited by the Mythic system. And again, that right there helps to create more diversity and, more diversity and creativeness when it comes to champion matchups, champion pools, in a way. Because it does actually direct your champion pool, because they're thinking, okay, I can build this and that on this champion, so I can pick this in this matchup and have a better time, as opposed to picking this one, knowing that the build path isn't necessarily going to lead me to anywhere. So yeah, I know I'm really just talking about the Mythic system, but that's really the one thing that I've actually really liked to have seen that was done from the changes. I mean, as far as like the map changes and stuff, one of the things I've actually liked from the changes of the game is that the introduction of Void Grubs. Now, for those of you that don't know, Void Grubs are like these little purple creatures, pretty much the same ones for those of you that play League of Legends. They're essentially the small little creature spawns of the Rift Herald or something like that, or from the Void, whatever. Basically, for those that don't know how it works, there's three Void Grubs that spawn. It's 3 times, or there's 3 of them for 2 times that they spawn. So overall, you can get up to 6 Void Grubs. Basically, if you get 1 Void Grub, that's a little bit more extra damage that you can use onto turrets / structures, whatever. Actually, you know what? Let me actually look up and give you an actual explanation for that, so I'm not speaking out of my ass. Okay, so let's look at this from the official League of Legends wiki. So, the Void Grub and Void Mites are neutral monsters on Summoner's Rift. Their camp is located in the Baron Pit. The Void Grub camp consists of 3 Void Grubs. Every 12 seconds of combat, each Void Grub also spawns 4 lesser Void Mites. So basically, you grab Void Mites from the camp, but the ones that spawn out are the little Void Mites. And here's the thing about the Void Mites. For those that play League of Legends, those things can actually tank a turret. So if you're somebody that wants to dive onto somebody under their own turret, and you have these little void mites in front of you, and you know for a fact that they're going to take the aggro, that gives you more time to go in there and try and get the kill or get like a summon down or whatever, and you can still scout out free as long as you yourself are in a good spot. So in a way, this is actually kind of not necessarily busted, but in a way that's actually kind of a good quality change for the game, depending on the type of game League of Legends you play. All right, so let's read more of this. Killing this camp awards gold and experience, which that doesn't really surprise anybody. As well as grants a stack of the Touch of the Void buff to all team members for each Void Grub killed. The Touch of the Void grants bonus damage over times of structures, which, like I said, as well as a stack of the Hunger of the Void for each stack beyond the fourth. While in combat with structures, the Hunger of the Void summons allied Void Mites that attack nearby enemy structures. Each Void Grub can spawn up to 2 times per game. The camp despawns permanently at 13 minutes 45 seconds into the game, or at 13 minutes 55 seconds if in combat. A Void Grub only spawns a second time if they were first slain before 9 minutes and 45 seconds. The Rift Herald spawns at the same spot at 14 minutes. Only the first grub kill for each spawn group of Void Grubs counts as an epic monster takedown. The first and that. Okay, whatever. So first of all, and I've even said this with my buddies on a Discord whenever we do play League of Legends and we get into these sort of discussions. I call this the snowball effect. And for those of you that don't know, obviously I'm referring to snowball as in like the ball of ice. And like when you roll down the snowball down the hill, you know how it gets bigger over time more rapidly. That's what this is. Void Grubs or Void Mites, whatever, they literally snowball the game. Because if you're somebody on like the top lane, if you're somebody in the jungle that's like ganking the enemy, and trying to push the you're trying to push the the turret with either Rift Herald, or you're just pushing yourself. If you're somebody in the mid lane that's just winning a hard matchup or easy matchup, or if you're somebody that's winning in the bot lane, that's either ADC or support. If you're somebody that's like basically winning your lane, and you have fucking these Void Mites or Void Mites or Void Grubs in your inventory that do extra damage to fucking turrets, and you have like these little ones that spawn in to help you out with it, that essentially snowballs the fucking game, because it makes you winning your lane a little bit more faster, and it helps accelerate the game to a point where sometimes maybe that other team can't respond unless they get a misplay out of you, an epic misplay. So, because imagine this shit with Mountain Soul, and Mountain Soul already does like a lot of damage over time, or not over time, but it gives you more extra damage that you could do to enemy turrets and structures. So imagine Void Grubs, slash Void Mites on top of Mountain Soul. This game is literally trying to promote snowball games, because that's what makes things, I guess, exciting for an audience. Maybe it's not the same as solo queue, but I do know that a lot of the games sometimes go way too further out when neither team is really in a decisive position to really take over the game, and whenever they do, maybe the other one just takes over for them. Hence why they're still in like this gridlock and stuff. So it really depends on what perspective you're looking at. I mean, in terms of pro play, this definitely will create a massive snowball effect in case people understand how that stuff works with the new camp, and how they use it, and how they properly utilize it, and making sure that it relies more on team coordination to make sure structures are pushed in. Lanes are in a good state with the minion wave. Solo queue, same exact thing, but except it might be a little bit less uncoordinated, or less coordination, because of the fact that it is solo queue, and maybe some people have different minds and perspectives of how they want to play. But essentially what I'm saying overall is that the Void Grubs or Void Mites, or slash Void Mites, the Void Grub camp is essentially Riot's way of saying, we want you guys to snowball your game a little bit more. So we're going to give you these things that help with turret damage, and give you a bit more golden experience than you normally would. So that's one of the changes I really like. I think this is a good change for the game. But it's not like a guaranteed snowball. Because what's to say, for example, you know, a team knows how to play against that and knows how to like put up a good tower defense. But yeah, that can very much so happen. It's not guaranteed to snowball every game, but it does give a team that has like a early game advantage. It does give them like a window to really act on. And it's not like overwhelming as long as you have good team coordination. You know how to play against the matchup, and you know how that's going to be done, that sort of thing. So I don't think I still think it's a snowball thing, a massive snowball thing, but it's not like an impossible one, is what I'm saying. It's not like one to where it will really stop it per se. Um okay, so as far as League of Legends, I mean, there's not much more else I can say for right now. I will try to get better in terms of talking about the game, in terms of analyzing it, giving more details. But for right now, I just wanted to spend at least like a few minutes or so talking about my thoughts and honest opinion about the whole, about what I think about the Void Grub camp, what I think about the changes on the map. Actually, by the way, I will say this though. I do think it's super cool that you can jump into Rift Herald and essentially control it. And I think because you're also in it as well, it does a bit more extra damage on top of the fact that Void. I was going to say Void. On top of the Rift Herald being on top of excuse me, on top of not only it running into it, because I think there's been some games I played where not only have you when you run in with the Rift Arrow, but I think it also gets off another charge if I'm not mistaken. But either way, having that ability to control it like Scion ult is actually kind of cool. It makes things interesting, and it definitely presents a different way of dealing with the pressure of Rift Herald. Like it definitely presents like a way for teams to strategize against it. And obviously in that same inverse, it gives teams an opportunity of, or solo queue players, a way of how to directly pressure the other team into responding to you whenever you're split pushing with it, or trying to respond to a team fight, that sort of shit. So that's also another change I forgot to mention. I don't know why I forgot to mention that part. And of course, the Baron Pit stuff, the Baron Pit wall stuff, where sometimes depending on what map you end up, well, it's always gonna be Summer's Rift. Let's put it that way, guys. But the way that they've explained it is that the Baron Pit walls or the Baron Pit area, whenever Baron comes up, that will always be different, depending on the game that you're in, or it's just randomly set. You'll get like a different Baron Pit area each time, and I think again that promotes a lot of creativeness as to how you're able to pinch the area, how you're able to have vision control of the area, objective control with the Baron, and how teams are just basically going to walk in, how they're going to try and steal it, or they're going to try to, defend against it so they can secure it, that sort of thing. So I think that's an interesting change. I don't hate it. Sorry. But yeah, no. So, I mean, there's not much more else I can say about it. Like I said, I want to get better in terms of analyzing the game and give more of a better thought process and shit. So I will go ahead and leave this topic for now. There's not much more else I can say. I do hope to give better analysis of the game and give more of better thoughts about it here and there. So I hope you guys understand that and can work with me on that. I will try to get better. I will try to get better with that. So hopefully that helped. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, and I think a lot of you have been kind of waiting for this one, so we'll go ahead and get right into it. I will be giving my full thoughts, opinion, and shit when it comes to the Chargers pursuing Jim Harbaugh. That whole entire saga, from what we've known publicly, some of the stuff that's been reported in the industry, that sort of thing. So, sorry, had to get like another drink inside. But yeah, no. So that's the last. This is gonna be the last topic we're gonna be talking about in today's episode. So let's get right into it. Okay. So for those that don't know, that have been watching, that have watched the NFL, and and also those that watched, where coaches are getting hired and how they get hired, and who hires who, that sort of thing. For those that don't know, the Chargers have officially fired Brandon Staley after that debacle game that I had the unfortunate pleasure of watching, sort of, because I was at work at that day, against the Las Vegas Raiders, 63-21. It was probably like one of the worst games I've ever seen in my life. Probably almost the worst I've seen overall. And I think after a historic defeat like that, the Chargers definitely knew in their minds they had to make this move. Because I don't think at that point, considering what we knew and of Brandon Staley and what came out afterwards, I don't think there was any world that would make sense that you keep Staley. In no universe would it make ever any sense. None. And I applaud the organization for having the guts to fire the coach, because normally the Chargers, what they like to do is they usually like to let their coach run out the contract or get close enough to running out the contract, and then they fire them. But here in this case, they're just like, yeah, no, we're just going to get rid of Brandon Staley now. And I think that was the right move to make. Because season in fires can sometimes lead to a good thing when it comes to a coaching search. As long as you're open, as long as you don't limit yourself, and as long as you cast a wide open net. Those are the three things that I consider very important when it comes to finding a head coach for your football team. Wide net search, you have no limitations on financials or anything really, and you're more of an open to explore different ideas, even if it kind of goes against sometimes what you think is right, but sometimes in the long run, it might be the right thing to do that helps your team win. In an ethical sense, of course. And I'm pleased to say that the Chargers have done all three of those things so far. They've casted a wide open net of coaches, people with experience, and people without experience. They have said in their statement, a few statements here and there, after they let go of Brandon Staley, that basically that there's no financial limitation that this team has. So if they want to get themselves a really good coach, and they want to pay this coach very well, then they'll do it. And they have this commitment to winning that they say. And I have this right here from the Athletic article. I think it was made by Daniel Popper, which, by the way, great fucking journalist. This guy does a lot of great work. I will remember to put his link of his Twitter account in the description down below, where you guys can follow his tweets, read his articles. This guy posts really good shit, and I appreciate a lot of his work done for the Chargers. But yeah, he typed here basically from this article, and I quote, "The strongest statement from Spanos," I believe this is John Spanos, came in response to a question about why fans should believe that the Chargers would get these coach and GM searches right. And here's the quote: "The commitment to winning and the commitment to do whatever it takes to get there is as strong as it's ever been, and really will not waver." So John Spanos, is basically saying that whatever it takes to get the search right, it's strong as ever, and despite the fact that it is very strong, it will not waver. It won't go down as easy. It won't go down as easily. We will find the right fit for the team. And I do think if this is what if John Spanos is serious about that, then I think so far that wide net search is holding up to it. But of course, the history shows that they've been hiring a lot of the coaches that they've been hired throughout the last several years or so have been mostly coordinators, guys without like any head coach experience or whatever. But I think they do realize, based on the head coaching search and based on what we've known behind the scenes and publicly, I think this might be the year. This might be the year where they hire a head coach that isn't like the first timer. I think they really want to go for somebody with a lot of experience, somebody that is successful, somebody that's a staple in every franchise that he or she goes to. And of course, there's only one other few guys that can do it that are available right now. You have Pete Carroll, you have Bill Belichick, and lastly, and you guys know this just by off of me saying this, you have Jim Harbaugh. You have Jim Harbaugh. And Jim Harbaugh has been linked to the Chargers a lot ever since Staley got fired. And for good reason. For a good fucking reason. Jim is a very successful coach. I mean, let's talk about his career snapshot for a second. The guy started off in I don't know if this is where he officially started off, but this is as earliest as I can remember as far as his coaching career is concerned. But actually, you know what? Let me actually do some proper research and actually look it up just to make sure. So let me look it up here. Let's see. Okay, so it is. Okay. I'm glad I have it all down. Okay, so from 2002 to 2023, he was the quarterbacks coach of the Oakland Raiders. So that first year where he came in as the quarterbacks coach, that was when the in 2002, I believe that was the season where Oakland went into the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay. Now, obviously, we all know what happened, but the point is that the first year he came in as quarterback coach, he made sure his development of that quarterback, along with the head coach John Gruden, or not John Gruden, sorry, different head coach. I forgot that was also the year that Gruden went over to Tampa Bay. I keep forgetting about that. But the QB coach is usually the guy that helps developing the quarterback. Somebody that helps with the somebody that helps have his QB understand like his reads, making sure he understands the playbook, and making sure he streamlines that development to where it goes up from there. So the first year he comes in as QB coach, Super Bowl. Now, of course, we're not going to really mention 2003, but I think overall, and it wasn't really Harbaugh's fault. I think 2003 up until like 2010 were several years of shit from the Raiders. So after that year, he went over to San Diego, University of San Diego, not San Diego as in the San Diego Chargers, but University of San Diego from 2004 to 2006. And during his time there, as the head coach of that team, he directed that team to an overall record of 7-4, including 5 straight wins to end that season. So he ended off really, really good. And then following that year, the team improved to 11-1, and that team won the 2005 Pioneer Football League Championship, which is basically, how do I say this? It's basically the Super Bowl, I would say, of the NCAA's Division I football championship. That would be the best way I could say it. The Pioneer Football League, PFL. That would be like the best way of saying it. That was like their Super Bowl. In 2006, he once again went 11-1. He went 11-1, and guess what? They won another Pioneer League title. They won another Super Bowl. Quote unquote. Okay, so let's go on to Stanford. What I'm going to do right now, guys, is kind of go over his coaching timeline, and then I'll get to like my whole thoughts about him, potentially going to the Chargers and stuff like that, and do I think it's actually going to happen, that sort of thing. So I'll get to all of that. But I'm just bringing up his timeline because I want the viewers of this video that may not be familiar with his coaching history to be more, like I said, more familiar, have understanding as to what this guy did as a coach, what his timeline was, and what notable things came out of it because of the fact that he was there. So that's why. But yeah, Harbaugh was then, after the 2006 season, after he won the Pioneer League title with the University of San Diego Toros, he then went to Stanford University as the head coach from 2007 to 2010. In the 2008 season, actually, where is the 2007 season? Actually, I have no idea why it didn't mention 2007, but I assume it might have been bad for him. But hold on, let me see if I can find it, because I want to make sure. I want to make sure I have all the seasons available in front of me. Stanford football. Let me take a look real quick. Okay, so in his first season, he went 4-8 with the Stanford Cardinal football team. That was also the same. How to say this? That was also the same game, or the same season, where, if you guys sort of remember, or not, the same season where there was like some controversy, where he basically said that, oh, Pete Carroll has only got one more year. He'll be there one more year. That's what I've heard. So basically, he kind of just He basically just made up some shit based on the fact that he heard it from somebody and then decided to speak it into existence, which almost ended up not necessarily being true, almost. Um, I will say that was also the same game where he actually did go up against the number one USC Trojans, which had the number one ranking at the time. USC was favored by 41 points, and Jim Harbaugh essentially took a Stanford team that wasn't really known for football. He essentially took that team and essentially won against USC 24-23 with a touchdown in the final minute. So essentially, the game came down to the wire. If you're able to do that as a head coach of a program that is not really known for that sort of thing at all, you could consider yourself pretty damn successful. Really, really successful. That's good on his part. Okay, so and then obviously for 2008, he went. Stanford went 5-7, and in January 2029, that was where he first confirmed to have been interviewed by the New York Jets for their head coaching position. Although, as we all know, the job eventually went to Rex Ryan, and then basically, even though they lost to USC in 2008, 2009 was also that same season. I was going to make this mistake because I forgot this wasn't in 2007, but it was actually 2009. If you guys remember that 2009 game against USC, which by the way, Stanford ended up upsetting USC again, but this time by a score of 55-21. That was also the same game where where Jim Harbaugh's team basically did a lot more than they should in a game where they know that they won so much, but they still were playing it as if it was like super close, and that could rub coaches the wrong way, which led to the infamous "What's Your Deal" Robo exchange that was had with Pete Carroll following that game. Excuse me. And also 2009, that was like a comeback season for them because they finished the regular season at 8-4. They received an invitation to play in the 2009 Sun Bowl, which was Stanford's first bowl appearance since 2001. So it's been like 8 years at that point, from 2001 to 2009, that they've last been in a bowl game, and that was literally because of Jim Harbaugh's coaching, along with his staff, of course, and players. And of course, in 2010, this is the most famous season that people can remember. In 2010, Harbaugh and Stanford went 11-1 in the regular season. Their only loss was to Oregon, that team that went undefeated and earned a berth in the BCS National Championship game. This was the first 11-win season, though, however, in the history of Stanford football that earned them at the time a number 4 BCS ranking, and they pretty much got a invitation to the Orange Bowl. They defeated Virginia Tech 40-12 for their first bowl win since 1996, a year before I was born. And the second year starting quarterback, which is a name that people should be more familiar with, Andrew Luck, was the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy. And then obviously, of course, there is the San Francisco 49ers. I'll try to go this out real quick. But basically, he came in at January 7th after 4 days after winning the bowl. He, excuse me, he agreed to a deal with the San Francisco 49ers for a 5-year contract. Basically, in his first season, Harbaugh led the team to a 13-3 record. He won the NFC West, and he finished second overall in the NFC. So basically, they finished at the NFC Championship game, which is really fucking good. Which was really good for that 49ers team, because a lot of people thought for that season they were going to play like absolute dog shit. But Harbaugh essentially took that team and turned it around. And then 2012, for the 2012 season, he made an incompetent decision by replacing Alex Smith with backup, Colin Kaepernick. And that got people questioning why, but eventually, what they say, the process was he was more like trusting the process, trusting what I'm doing. And then as time went on, it kind of showed that in a way. Harbaugh led the team to 11-4-1 record in the regular season, He led the 49ers to back-to-back division titles. And he went all the way to the Super Bowl, where he lost against his brother, Jim Harbaugh, and the Ravens, of a score of 34-31. And then 2013, that was where Harbaugh again led the team to a successful season, and their third consecutive appearance in both the playoffs and the NFC Championship game. So for the first for the first 3 seasons, he led them to 3 NFC Championship games, back-to-back division titles, and 1 Super Bowl appearance. If that isn't a successful fucking head coach, then I don't know what is. And then obviously the only season of outlier really was the 2008 season, 2014 season, where he had an 8-8 season, and that was where a lot of friction between Harbaugh and the GM at the time, Jed Yoke, where basically there was like some massive disagreements and back and forth between him and the GM, and that was where a lot of people realized, the narrative of, oh well, Harbaugh doesn't play nice with a GM that doesn't really align well with him. There was some stuff said between both of them, but in reality, that wasn't really much. And then afterwards, from 2015, well, technically, his hiring happened on December 30th, but basically 2015. If we want to be technical in terms of the seasons, on December 30th, 2014, Harbaugh was introduced by the University of Michigan as the school's new head coach. And from there, there's been the up and down sort of thing. Basically, how do I say this? Basically, the 2015 Michigan season for them was 10-3 overall record. They were 6-2 in the Big Ten. They ended up finishing English. They ended up finishing that season with a victory in the Citrus Bowl over number 19 Florida, 41-7. In the 2016 season, they ended up their record for that season was 10-3. It was 10-3. They were 7-2 in the Big Ten. They ended that season. They ended up finishing that season again in the Orange Bowl, but this time they ended up losing to number 10 Florida State by a score of 33-32. And then 2017 they finished the season with a 8-5 record, and then they lost in the Outback Bowl against South Carolina. So that was for the 2017 season. And then 2018, they ended up having a record of 10-3. Again, another strongly positive record, other than the 2017 season, which was kind of, it was still positive, but it wasn't like humongously advantageous, if that makes sense. But yeah, 2018 season, I'll repeat it again. He had an overall record of 10-3. He was 8-1 in the Big Ten, and he ended up for that season he ended up losing to the Florida Gators in the Peach Bowl of a score of 41-15. And then in 2019, their record was 9-4. They were 6-3 in the Big Ten. They ended up finishing that season in the Citrus Bowl, where they lost against Alabama 35-16. And then obviously 2020, as we all know, that was the COVID season. I think at this point, anything that is sports season in 2020 should just be referred to as the COVID season. That was the what record was that? That was 2-4 in the Big Ten. But really, it was the same overall record. They were both 2-4, but it was still like an overall 2-4. It was like very shortened. But yeah, that was like really the first shitty season for Michigan. But technically, not a lot of people would really take that into stock because like I said, the college football season was really shortened for a lot of teams. So a team that sometimes would expect to be really good may not necessarily have like the best record, but it's not like the record's indication of team strength. This is more so like how much time that they were able to spend practicing together and doing all these other things. So that's it. All right, so 2021, the actual regular season again. They finished with an overall record of 12-2. with a 8-1 Big Ten record. They ended up excuse me. They ended up advancing to the Big Ten championship game where they first defeated Iowa in Indianapolis 42-3, which earned them an Orange Bowl berth against Georgia in the college football playoff. Which I don't know what the stats of that was because it didn't fucking say. Oh, here it is. They lost against number 3 Georgia for that game of a score of 11-34. And then obviously for the 2022 season, they had an overall record of 13-1, but they were also 9-0 in the Big Ten. And then they ended up going all the way. Well, first of all, they won against Purdue 43-22 for the Big Ten championship game. And then for the Fiesta Bowl, which they ended up going to, they eventually lost to TCU 51-45. And then obviously this latest season that everybody knows about, everybody's been keeping an eye on just because of the signal stealing controversy. Michigan went 15-0 overall for that season with a 9-0 record in the Big Ten. Obviously, they ended up beating Alabama in the Rose Bowl 27-20, and then they went all the way to the College Football Playoff National Championship, beating Washington 34-13. Now, I know that was a lot in terms of like his history, and maybe that wasn't too much time spent on what I think about him as a coach, and do I think he should be hired by the Chargers and all that sort of stuff. But I wanted to give you guys like a timeline in history of what he was as a coach, what he did, and what he was able to do on every team that he went to. And no matter where Jim Harbaugh goes, his team, one way or another, becomes very, and I mean very, very successful. He did it with the Oakland Raiders as a QB coach for at least the 2002 season, where that team went to the Super Bowl. He went to University of San Diego and essentially got them 2 football titles for that program. He went to the 49ers and essentially had 3 really good seasons of football where he went back-to-back division titles. He went back to the NFC Championship game 3 times, and he went to the Super Bowl once. He goes to Michigan, ends up putting consistent high positive records. And then eventually, after all that time, he eventually finally got to the national championship game and won big against another good football team. Wherever Jim Harbaugh goes, because I'll say this again, wherever Jim Harbaugh goes, success always follows. That's what a good coach does. That is a good coach. If anybody's going to sit here and tell me that isn't a quality of a good coach and Jim is not any close to it, then you must be out of your fucking mind and you should be drug tested immediately. Drug tested immediately. I don't care who you are. You could be Obama for all I care. I will get you a drug tester because there is no one you're going to sit there and tell me in all serious faith that Jim Harbaugh is somehow a shit coach. Oh, sorry about that. Just looking at my phone. But yeah, no. So don't sit there and tell me that he isn't a successful coach, because he is. His history literally proves it. The quality of players he's produced has proved it, along with his coaching staff. You cannot tell me that this guy will not bring success wherever he goes. Which is why a lot of us, and when I say a lot of us, I'm talking about Charger fans. This is why a lot of us Charger fans really want Jim Harbaugh as the definite number 1 head coach for this football team. And there's been a lot of smoke and a lot of stuff coming out in terms of that. People saying, oh, it could happen. People saying it won't happen. There's been a lot of stuff. But we're going to talk about the good stuff because this is what we're here to do. Because I've already given you my timeline history of Jim Harbaugh as a coach. I've already given you my personal opinion about him. I do think he's a very successful coach. I do think he's a little bit weird in terms of people's skills, but who isn't really? Like, most of us are kind of almost weird in some sense. So I think this is a guy that brings quality coaching. He brings success wherever he goes. And for a team like the Chargers that desperately needs that in order to turn that ship around, Jim Harbaugh will be the best thing if they can pull this off. It will be the best thing this football team will ever do. You can put that on my motherfucking tombstone. That Jim Harbaugh will be the best thing this fucking organization will ever do. Should they pull this off? Should they pull this off? So, okay. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna bring up a clip. So give me a second to go ahead and set it up. I have really no idea why I didn't do this before. So give me a second to. Oh, whoops! I don't know why I did that. Hey, that's my starting soon screen. You guys have seen it for the first time, in case you haven't. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and put this up here. I should have already had this set up before, but but I didn't because I'm really ain't shit. Okay, hold on. I mean, there's nothing really wrong in my DMs, but I just want to make sure nothing private leaked out, which nothing wasn't. It was just literally fucking tweet notification, but whatever. Here, let me make sure this is all good. Okay, this should be good. I just want to make sure my URL wasn't posted. Which does not like it would matter website URL, but you know, just in case. And yes, I use my Twitter account, my personal Twitter account, which I've always promoted a lot of the time. But I just want to show you guys this video, this Twitter clip. I might show you another one, or you might look at another. But this is Michael Lombardi, which is a former NFL GM. That was on the Pat McAfee show, and basically he kind of confirms the stance that not only I had, but also this guy as well, who is another Charger fan and is somebody that's also very knowledgeable in what he talks about as a fan. And by the way, down below, as you see here, that's the full video. But I'm gonna read. We're gonna play the video, but basically my stance, as this guy said, is Jim Harbaugh doesn't even take the meeting unless he knows ahead of time that they're willing to meet his demands. Which Don Yee, his agent that he hired, has literally expressed to teams that they need a financial commitment to even talk to him. And once you have that done, see if that team is also willing to meet his demands to make sure that this football team is in a position to succeed. Okay, let's go ahead and let me go ahead and turn this up here a little bit. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully you guys can hear it. Okay, so let's go ahead and give us a watch.
I don't think there would be a meeting if the boundaries weren't set. I don't think they would have come in there without an understanding. I'm not saying a memo of agreement, but without an understanding of, like, this is what it's going to take. Are you in or you out? Like, anytime you bring a free agent, especially the first couple days into your facility, you have a kind of an understanding of what the agent's looking for and what you're willing to pay. And that determines who gets the visit first, right? Who gets to get the player to come in their building, and then we can close the deal. I'm pretty sure the Chargers have answered Harbaugh to the level of satisfaction that he's willing to take it to another step. So I don't think financially they're not. Look, they got to buy credibility, right? They got to buy, because every game we talk about during the season, there's more fans from the opposing team than there are from the Chargers. That's got to stop.
Chargers fans are not going to be happy to hear that. I want to let you know
It's
that.
real.
They're not going to be happy to hear that, but it's real.
But it's true. I mean, look, I'm not trying to make anybody upset. It's just, you go there, there's more red jerseys when they play the Chiefs. There's more this black and silver when they play the Raiders. It's just what it is. They need credibility. The ownership needs credibility. They're sitting there. They've got a great young quarterback. They got to face Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. They have to face, they have to face the good teams of the Sean Payton and whatever happens in Denver. So I think if they're moving in that direction, I don't think finances are going to be the issue.
He's correct. Jim Harbaugh does not take that meeting with the Chargers if, he doesn't take that with the Chargers if they're not willing to meet his demands. And I think that makes a lot of sense for Jim Harbaugh to be doing that. That makes a lot of sense for Jim Harbaugh to be doing that. Because it does make sense for him. Because let's think about it. If you're somebody that's looking at an organization that is interested in you, you're thinking to yourself, okay, is this is this team the right opportunity for me to go to? And if so, are they willing to do what I think will take to be a successful football team? And if you're the Charger ownership, you have to look at the history of Jim Harbaugh as a coach and think to yourself, everywhere he goes, and I've already stressed this already, everywhere he goes, success always follows. One season as a QB coach with the Raiders in 2002, Super Bowl. When he went to the University of San Diego, he brought them 2 Pioneer Football League titles, essentially the college football title in today's terms, but for that division that the Toros are in. He went to Stanford, revitalized that program very well. He went to the 49ers, 3 consecutive NFC Championship games, back-to-back division titles, 1 Super Bowl appearance. Michigan. Took some time to get there, but he has developed a lot of high win records. He has at least been very competitive in a lot of those seasons. And finally, within the last season that we just finished, he finally got the national title, which is the #1 prize that a lot of these college football programs are still striving for. So the Charger ownership has to look at every bit of that history and then think to themselves, why couldn't he do that here? Why couldn't he not just do that here? Because they know he can. If there's no financial limit that John Spanos is telling this fucking media up in LA or anywhere really, the national media, then there should be no problem for the Chargers to put a serious offer on the table that shows we want you to be the head football coach of this team because we know the success you bring as a coach. We know the history and the pedigree that you have, and we know that things are going to go in the right direction with you as a coach, and we're going to do whatever we can as an ownership to support you and make sure that this team is in the best possible spot to succeed. Absolutely no reason for the Chargers to fuck this up. Absolutely none. I mean, you could say that about almost any other team that's also pursuing Jim Harbaugh, but I'm telling you guys right now, there's no possible, reason for the Chargers to fuck this up. Absolutely none. Absolutely none. And also, I'll just touch on this real quick, but I'm not sure if it's really confirmed or maybe it's just a fat rumor. Well, I mean, to be fair, they did say it's unconfirmed. But this is from College Football Dogs. They've actually been pretty on point with some of the stuff that's been said. But obviously, a lot of people are just going to be more eerie about what they say because, obviously it's a random, it's a college football news reporting thing that has missed some stuff here and there, but they have said it is unconfirmed. And they say it's a rumor alert, but it might as well happen. Anyways, so yeah, let's take a look. It says here, unconfirmed reports that the University of Michigan football coach Jim Harbaugh is still on ground in Los Angeles negotiating a contract with the Chargers. CFB Dogs is looking into this rumor and will try to confirm this report. Stay tuned. Now, let's just say this is true for a moment. That wouldn't surprise me because Jim Harbaugh wants to make sure that if this is a place that he really wants to go to, he wants to see what that contract looks like in terms of financials, in terms of what control he will get, and in terms of what power he might have. So this right there is not very much of a surprise for him to do because I would do the same thing. I would negotiate with the I would negotiate a contract with a professional football team like the Chargers or anybody just to see what that contract would look like, and then go back to Michigan and be like, look, you guys have already offered me this contract, but I got another one over here that's way better in terms of money, and it allows me to escape from the bullshit that I'm about to get from the NCAA. And also another, another report that came out, or another confirmation of this really, is from Dan Wetzel, who is the Yahoo Sports columnist. He basically almost said the same thing, but a little bit differently. He said essentially that the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh may be continuing talks today, which is basically the same thing as this report from CFB Dogs. But the difference is that here it was just more direct to the point, but very short and sweet. And speaking of Dan Wetzel, there's another thing that came out earlier today, because it seems like for the last several days, at the beginning of like the morning or in the afternoon, there's always stuff that comes out for Harbaugh as far as the saga is concerned. There is that random report that he would come out to Los Angeles and meet with the Chargers. That has happened. There's been reports about this and that, that sort of thing. So today, there's a thing that came out where it said, from Dan Wetzel in this tweet, and I quote, among the sticky points in contract discussions between Michigan and Jim Harbaugh, language that grants Harbaugh immunity from termination for any finding stemming from multiple current NCAA investigations, industry sources tell Yahoo Sports. Also, in addition, proposed financial term of the deal are 6 years, $11.5 million guaranteed per year. So when we look at 11.5, let's take a look at the calculator, right? 11.5 times 6 years. Hold on, I'm trying to find the times 6. It's about 69. Okay, so let's make this very clear, guys. The NFL is going to offer him a lot more money than the National College Football College will. I can guarantee you that for sure. The NFL is going to give him a lot more money. So it's all up to the Chargers really to offer more and give more of a control leisure to Jim. And I guarantee you, if that offer is right there and they do exactly that, it's fully guaranteed at that point he's going to consider that offer very closely, and he goes to the Chargers. That is something I truly believe. That is something I truly believe that he will do. That is something I truly believe he will do. He will take the NFL contract offer over Michigan if the NFL contract offer he gets from the Chargers or from whoever, but mainly the Chargers, if that contract offer is a lot more attractive and is more pleasing to him than Michigan would. And off of that same source as well, the negotiations with Michigan are at an impasse. So if the Chargers get a hint of this, which I'm pretty sure they might have already, they need to pounce hard on this. They need to hit hard on this. They need to make sure they hear about this and they're like, hey, Jim, we've heard about this. So we're going to make the deal sweeter for you to make it more enticing for you to come coach our football team over here in Los Angeles with a young professional quarterback. That's the franchise. That's the face of our franchise. We're going to make sure we give you an offer that you want. And there has actually, at the same day, at the same article from NFL.com, where it was announced that he would then talk to the Chargers next week, which was this week, and it ended up being on Monday, which wasn't really announced until the morning, the morning of. He has even indicated to associates within that same article, and these are the NFL.com sources, because it says during the article, sources say it's believed the Chargers will speak with next week with Harbaugh, which has already happened, who has indicated to associates that there's a real possibility that he could leave the University of Michigan to become Los Angeles' head coach. I don't think you would indicate to anybody for anything that something could happen if you didn't seriously consider it. This right here totally confirms that he is seriously considering about leaving, or seriously thinking about leaving to go coach Chargers. Because if this wasn't a real possibility, you wouldn't even think of this at all. You wouldn't even waste your time on it. So the fact that he's even thinking about it, the fact that he's even having that in his mind to the point where he's telling multiple people about it, I think it's just beyond of, oh, well, he's only sort of thinking about it. No, it's just serious consideration. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know how else to phrase it. I don't know how else to put it. And of course, obviously on January 15th, which was yesterday at 1:50 p.m. Pacific, the Chargers put out a tweet which they said, we've completed an interview with Jim Harbaugh for head coach. And this obviously caused a lot of people to go fucking nuts because obviously, that's what people wanted to see. That's what people have begged this team to do. And they eventually did it. Some people were disappointed that it wasn't like an immediate offer right away for Jim. Like, there wasn't like an immediate agreed upon, that sort of thing. But let's be honest, guys, that's not really going to happen right now. That's not really going to happen right now. I think the Chargers have to satisfy the Rooney Rule first, which, by the way, for those that are a little bit confused by it, I believe it's one more interview left for the Rooney Rule. I think as of this recording, but I could be wrong. But as of I say this, as of today, they just need to do one more interview in person. It can't be virtual. In-person interview with a minority candidate. And once the Chargers have done that for head coach, they have completely satisfied the Rooney Rule, and they can then decide what to do from there. A lot of people have said that the timeline for the Chargers to maybe hire Jim Harbaugh, assuming he does leave the NCAA and go to the NFL. The earliest I think people have said that the Chargers could hire him is next week. So either the 22nd or between the 22nd or the 24th. Because this is a thing that Jim has even mentioned in sources, even the same one I just mentioned with the NFL.com stuff. Well, actually, no, not NFL.com, sorry. I don't have it in front of me, but it's the it was from Adam Schefter, or one of those guys, where basically he said, he said in source, but he basically has mentioned that he doesn't want to drag this process out for too long. Meaning, like, this is something that he's going to decide within good time and decide quickly of what he's going to do. I'm not saying that, quickly as in like, he'll do it tomorrow, but he's not going to basically drag this out too long to where it really needs to go. Like, he's going to decide in good time that I'm going to either accept this offer and leave to go to the Chargers, or I'm going to decline their offer and stay in Michigan. I think this is where it's really all at. I think near the end of this week, we're going to get a better idea and better forecast as to what he's going to do. And from there, I do think that if all goes well, there's a real possibility that the Chargers are going to end up hiring him sooner than later, if all goes well. If all goes well. I'm just looking. Sorry, I'm looking at the some other stuff, but also, and let's also look at one of the most important things as well: odds making. Now you guys are probably thinking, well, what does odds making have to do with everything? Odds making could be wrong and stuff. Listen, there's a lot of connections and power that odds makers really have with insider sources. I have no doubt in my mind that the most reputable, verified ones will pay people, the right people, to tell them inside information if it meant, their odds were getting better. And there's been, let me see if I can find it too. I just had it right in front of me. There is a tweet. There is a tweet that DraftKings Sportsbook, which by the way is very reputable. It's like one of the more top dogs of the sports betting industry. Their odds making as of today, from 8 hours ago, their odds for the Chargers being Jim Harbaugh's next team to head coach is at minus 150. For those that don't know, that basically means that is the overwhelmingly favorite spot, or favorite, how to say this, very highly likely scenario to happen for that for that topic. That means, again, I'll repeat it again, minus 150 means that the Chargers are the most overwhelmingly favorite and most safe bet for a better to make when it comes to who Jim Harbaugh is going to coach next. That is a good indication that it might be heading in that direction. Now, do I think it's guaranteed to happen 110%? No. I'm still waiting for that official insider report that the Chargers have officially agreed with Jim Harbaugh to be the next head coach. That is the report I am waiting for. We could talk about rumors all day. We could talk about what college football dogs have said. We could talk about what Adam Schefter has said. We could talk about what Ian Rappaport has said. We could talk about what some sort of Michigan fanboy that makes up reports say. It doesn't matter at this point. I mean, I'll still read them, and I'll still keep it in mind. I'll still, see what people are saying. Like, for example, there's one that came out an hour ago that said, from Michigan, not from Michigan, sorry, from ESPN, that it's growing increasingly unlikely that Jim Harbaugh even returns to Michigan. Like, over time, it's starting to, increase the fact that he may or may not even come back. So that's where we're at here. That's where we're at here. And then And then I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm not even sure what else I could say. I mean, I've talked about most of the reports that I think were relevant in terms of the discussion point. So, but yeah, overall, my prediction moving forward is that I would give it a 80% chance at minimum, but highly at 95%, between 80 to 95, or in terms of percentages, or in terms of like, you know, the 70s to 30s or the 60s to 40s. I'm going to give it a 70 to 30, well, actually no, 80 to 20 odds, you know, like 80% chance that he comes to the Chargers and 20% that he stays in Michigan. Those are the chances I'll give as far as Jim Harbaugh comes to the Chargers. Overall, my prediction, he eventually leaves Michigan. And again, I understand I could be completely wrong about this, but this is my prediction. I think he leaves Michigan, he comes to the Chargers, and within the first 3 years, or at some point within the first 3 years, the Chargers football team will be revitalized, they'll be very successful, and they'll be heading towards the right direction that this franchise sorely needs. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. 110%. As long as the Chargers don't fuck this up, they put a very good offer on the table, they make an attractive offer to Jim Harbaugh that he can't say no to, that makes him, you know, or that gets him to leave Michigan, I have no doubt in my mind that the Chargers will be the next football team that Jim Harbaugh in his legendary career is going to coach. 110%. 110%. I guarantee that all the way through. Obviously, you know, I say that out of like hype, but obviously I do think, like I said, it's very likely to happen. I do think it will, but I do realize I could be wrong. I will admit that if that happens, that I was wrong. But I honestly do think, based off everything we've heard so far and from what we've seen, I 110% think the Chargers are going to be the next coach. I mean, the next coach. God damn it. The next team that Jim Harbaugh is going to coach. 110%. 110%. Okay, and with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I will go ahead and end today's episode. I might do another one, not on Richie spots, but maybe just like a separate solo video where I might talk about more of the Jim Harbaugh stuff, because I feel like I need to write about more stuff regarding that. But hopefully the next time I talk about Jim Harbaugh on this channel, I hope it's to officially, you know, say that he's become the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, or any other head coach that ends up being hired by the Chargers in case it's not Jim. So yeah, hopefully the next video I do is that, and if not, man, it is what it is. But hopefully the next video we do on this guy, it will be him becoming the head coach of the LA Chargers. So that is pretty much it as far as that's concerned. So yeah, nearly 2-hour episode. I definitely need to go rest my voice. But you know what, guys, I want to thank you guys so much for watching today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you letting me be part of your wait, or whatever you're doing. Whatever you're just playing video games, doing homework, or you just need something to listen to. I'm glad I could provide that entertainment for you. Again, I really appreciate the support. I want to become a consistent content creator and put out more of these videos and streams, which, by the way, streams are going to come back. I'm just trying to figure out when I would want to do that. That's pretty much it. I mean, there's not very much else I can say. Other than, obviously, guys, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to comment, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and share it with your fellow friends that are either Pokemon fans, Crash Bandicoot fans, NFL fans / Charger fans. And I will put out a good amount of videos that cater, and also League of Legends fans. League of Legends fans. I will cater to all those things, because those are the things I would love to do on my channel, and I know people, as long as I put in the good stuff, will come and watch. So, but again, thank you guys for the genuine love and support. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Don't forget to also follow my Twitter content account, which is at R3097. Then the regular regular personal Twitter account where I'll retweet a lot more of these articles to get more of my thoughts about the Harbaugh shit. It'll be at Richie_Faraway1. My Facebook is ArtFardu97. And then my Twitch, last but not least, is ArtFardu97. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I really, really, really appreciate it. And I will see you guys on the next episode of Richie's Thoughts or the next video on this channel. And of course, we can't end this video or any video on this channel without saying, as my good friend TSS always says, wash your fucking hands. So have yourselves a great morning, great afternoon, great night, or whatever time zone you're in. And I will see you guys on the next video or stream. Bye-bye for now.